So I was talking about last week for my Dharma talk, the four pillars of the dojo: the monk, the sage, the samurai, and the sensei. And I was talking about the first pillar of the monk and habits that serve you or habits that don't serve you, and the willingness to take a look at both sides of that, of maybe adopting something new or letting go of something that maybe you've either unconsciously or consciously moved into you, of habits for 2026 that don't serve you. And so I was getting the itch to move to the sage, and as I was sitting, I was like, hanging out in the monk, I think one more week would be a good thing to do. And it's such a powerful place to really look at how you've actually set your world up, and like habits are one of those things. Looking at things that give you energy and take your energy. I believe I talked about that before. And the thing that was resonating to me coming up at the end of the year is something that me and Amber do every year. It's called the Wheel of Reflection. And do you remember I think it was a woman that gave that to you first, so I want to recognize her.
Firehawk, yeah. Pele and Firehawk.
Pele and Firehawk, yeah.
Medicine teachers.
They're teachers, yeah, medicine teachers. So I want to honor them for gifting that, and something that we've been doing for many, many years at the end of every year or right at the beginning of the year. It's called the Wheel of Reflection. And it has you look at four different areas of your 2025 or your prior year that you've already lived through, to reflect and recognize these four areas. And the areas are your successes, your learnings, your failures, and your wisdom. And so your willingness to take a look at, starting with the successes in your 2025. If just want to invite you right now is just to think back at some of those successes that you've had in your year for this last year, and just kind of get a vision in your mind of what those, either something that happened. I was a success of going to Malta with Amber for me, and standing in Gozo at one of the monolithic temples, and that was a success for me to do that. Something I've always wanted to do, to take her and introduce her to my roots and my relatives on the island. So just to think back of that for yourself is, and this could be some homework for you, is that what are some successes that you had for the year, and to really take an inventory of, we can call them wins or successes, that you can recognize inside yourself for 2025. Again, because you want to know where you've been before you start to go into the future and start to vision. In the sage is the visioning part, that we want to look at, where did we succeed, or where did I succeed, and how did that serve me, and how did that feel in my body to stand in a torrential downpour outside of walking through a temple with Amber, and just the two of us were there because everybody cleared out because it was raining, and then it stopped raining right when we got to the entrance of the temple, and it was just the two of us for a good half hour or maybe longer that we got to witness that. But I just want you to take that just reflection inside yourself. And then the next one is learnings. What's something that you learned from 2025? What is the teaching or lessons that you've been taught by this prior year? There's always lessons that have been brought to you that maybe you weren't expecting, or maybe that you purposely studied or consciously, embarked on a journey that taught you some lessons, and the learning that goes with the prior year. So you have your successes, and then you have your learnings. What did you learn? And then the one that I always struggle with, being the positive guy, but I do find value in where did I fail? What's that feel like where did something feel like it was a failure to me, or that, um, I always say even better if, but the real, to feel the gravity of a failure, that it doesn't mean anything about you. It's actually some learnings about 2025 of where did you learn, or you succeed, learn, and then also where were some failures. They're not bad, but they taught you something also. And then out of the successes, the learning, and the failure, you pull forward wisdom. And me and Amber will make a list of the wisdom that we got from the year, from those other 3 areas that I'm going to take forward with me into this next year. And to go through and take that inventory of what is the wisdom that I want to bring forward in how I'm showing up, or what I'm doing, or, like I said, habits or things that fill you with energy. It's really, to take that full look at all those different areas every single year, and really, we do it as a couple, and I'll make my list, and about half of the list, my mind will actually block out one of the areas, like successes for me. I block out a lot. I don't, but I'll pay attention to the failures. And so my mind goes to the failures, and then Amber's like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this for successes? And then there's areas for Amber that maybe she wasn't aware of, and I can bring forward to her of, here she has another book ready to be published at the beginning of the year, or first quarter. And she has actually 2 books, actually. Let's just state that's really come out of this year. But to remind each other of those areas that I may not see or recognize. So the wheel of reflection. And the monk is that area where it's going to set you up for being able to go into the sage and start to say, what do I want for 2026? Measurable or non-measurable, it doesn't matter. And if you can do both, that's even a bonus. But that, like, what would be your vision for 2026 is, once you start to take your inventory of the prior time and where you're at currently and what's serving you and what's not serving you, then you can really start to be in what Jen Bowers brought up as dreamy goodness. Are you willing to go to that spot in your mind, like I was when I was young? And they used to say I daydreamed a lot. And I used to see myself flying, and I used to feel what it felt like to fly, and I could go to different places and transport. I used to remember Star Trek. There was they used to go in that transporters. Yeah, they used to go in there. Did you ever watch that, Dexter? No, I was. So I remember seeing that. The Jetsons. Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, they had transporters too. Look at that.
They had cell phones.
And they had cell phones there too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So those kind of things where when I was younger, I let myself dream like that, and to go, what would this time, I think it's the 23rd of December today, right? And what would that look like for 2026, 1 year from now? And that's going to be the next area of the sage, of looking at that. But I want to return back to the wheel of reflection, and the successes, the learnings, the failures, and the wisdom that make you who you are today. And that's like a great canvas that when I watch Amber paint, and I've been through this, where I'll paint on a canvas, like say the wheel of reflection, and then that's my starting point, and I'll paint over that, and it'll change into something totally different. And that's like 2026, is it's changing into, it may look like a bunch of scribbles and maybe words, and then all of a sudden it turns into a face, and turns into that man or woman that is sitting in December 2026 on the 23rd. And who is he? Who is she? How does she show up? What does her world look like in December 23rd, 2026? And to let yourself, I give you full permission to be in dreamy goodness and let yourself play in that way once you have that solid monk down like that. But the permission to dream and let yourself be dreamed, and yeah, really honor the time of the monk of where you've been and how far you've come in 1 year. So the wheel of reflection is a powerful tool for that for me, and I'll say for Amber also. I know I get a lot out of it, and I think she does too. So the wheel of reflection. All right, play with it. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask, and I'm more than happy to guide you through it or give you a layout of it, of what it can look like. And thank you again to Pele and Firehawk. Yes. So
They're in the Bay of Pele. She's studied Hawaiian Firehawk. They're Native American, like they're natives,
yeah.
and they teach it a little bit different.
Yeah, I've kind of just my interpretation of it, so it's not exact, but definitely just want to honor them because they really changed me of how I view my past year and the process that I get to go through with Amber to lay out my year every single year. So, all right, so let's go into this year of 2026 with a dreamy goodness, and let yourself dream of what you may feel like. And are your legs going to be stronger? Going to be able to get up and down easier? Be walking more? Have your own place, our own company. Move in that direction. It's really exciting. And your books are published, both of them.
That's happening for sure.
And mine is too. So I'd like to, so that's something that, look at that. She said, that's happening for sure. Hear the conviction in that? I love it. So, all right, let's go ahead and get in our position, and we're going to sit for 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Again, if you could please just dust off your mat from any lint or